Okay, folks, I'm Manishi. I think you guessed that. It gives me great pleasure in welcoming you to this second workshop, which focuses on one of the crucial weak areas for IITians. I mean, most of our startups are started by techie founders, and they somehow don't see the importance of fundraising because they kind of think it's a side activity, but you have to understand something. A startup can only survive if it has got money. And the reason why we started IIT Startups is in the survey we discovered there have been more slippages by IIT Startups on the fundraising area than anything else. Okay, because they either didn't know it or didn't understand the nuances of what it takes to get funding, okay? But no fund, no startup, you're going nowhere, okay? So keep in mind that this is one of the most important sessions for you. It's so important that we've dedicated 2 sessions for this. This is the one on how to build a pitch. Naeem will first start with a little bit of background of the business plan itself, which we didn't cover in the last session because we ran out of time, and I told them that that will anyway be covered by Naeem, so let's get away from that and let's focus on their agenda last time. So he's going to cover a bit of that and build it up to the pitch. Now let me introduce Naeem Zafar. He teaches at UC Berkeley at the Haas School. He's also an entrepreneur. He's also the chair of the Thai Institute. So very accomplished speaker. I've heard him twice, and then I said, I got to grab him for our sessions. So that's how Naeem came in here. And today's session is on pitching. The key thing you have to understand, nobody else can make a pitch for you. Every VC will insist that you, if you're the founder, if you're the CEO, you have to make the pitch. Don't think you can send your financial officer there and he'll make the pitch. You know, if he makes the pitch, you're no more a CEO. They're going to throw you out. The VC is going to throw you out, okay? You have to make the pitch. And to make a winning formula, okay, you have to make a beautiful pitch, like Sundar Pichai, okay? That's why he got to the top. A nice name he's got, huh? Sundar Pichai. So with that, I'll hand you over to Naeem. Just one question was raised last time. I mean, I don't know whether I answered it, but somebody raised a question: can a person on an H1 visa do a startup? Yes, it can be done. It's a little tricky because if a startup hasn't collected its Series A funding, how are they going to pay you a salary? And an H1 visa is kind of tied up to the labor clearance application that you make. Okay, and for that, in session number 4, where I'm going to be covering product design to production, we are going to cover 2 other aspects. We're going to cover IP, okay, and this HR issue, this thing about how H1B visas can get involved in a startup. But the reality of this thing is, many of you who are wannabes, wannabes are by and large moonlighting and getting their ideas together, validating their ideas before they take the plunge. You know, there is a point when you take the plunge, but before that you have to keep in mind that you have to be legally completely clear so that your old company doesn't get after you. Now, they won't get after you as long as you're not very successful, but if you produce the next Google, they will get after you, okay? So with that, Naeem, over to you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, well, good to see all of you, although the trend, I must say, is not in our favor. In Computer History Museum, we had 400 people. I think last week we had about 200 people. Today we have like 100 people.
Last time we had 130, but that's because each group is sizing up where their weaknesses are, and they come for the areas which they are weak in.
That's not a great way to get to know you guys, but okay.
Somebody shows up for all, that's the weakest.
Yeah.
a lot of what Naeem is going to say is contained in a beautiful, compact book that he's written. And I happened to buy that, and I went through it, and the complete list of VCs, complete list of angels, all that is there in the back of the book. So all that hunting around that you're going to do, which we'll anyway publish on our website, it's all there in that little book of his, okay? So I'm saying he's an accomplished author, so you have the advantage of these books coming to you at relatively low cost.
So I know many of you are tight schedule. We'll get started. We have a lot to cover. So I'll be with you today and then next session, which is 2 weeks from today. So today we're going to focus on who are these investors, what do they want, how do you talk to them, how do you approach them, what do they need to hear, and next week we're going to talk about how do you negotiate a term sheet, what are the terms, what should you be concerned about. Week after next, 2 weeks from today. But I also will write down other questions which come on your mind which you would like to see addressed. So we can then add that and have a flexible interactive session. Even today, feel free to jump up, raise a question. I have 93 students in my class in Berkeley, so I'm used to rambunctious behavior. So I'll be able to handle that. You will not intimidate me, so please feel free to jump up and ask. So my name is Naeem Zafar. I was electrical engineer, Brown University, and worked for Honeywell, started my first company when I was 26. I'm doing my 7th company right now. Last company was sold to Oracle in mobile security space. If you have an iPhone with a touch ID fingerprint sensor, we invented that. Apple bought that company with 2 hands in between. Other companies, QuickTurn in chip design space. So we have done that, we had an IPO. So not only have done that, I've invested in 10 companies. I've taught several thousand entrepreneurs on advisory board of 35 companies for the last 20 years. So there's nothing which I haven't seen and nothing I cannot answer, which is a tall, lofty statement to make, but prove me wrong. Like Manishi mentioned, I've written a few books. I did bring them with me. In case somebody wanted to peruse through them, you'll be able to purchase them at a special discounted price forced into me by son, Mr. Manishi. So $20. So we can talk about that later. So we have a lot to cover. First thing is having a clarity in your mind, which is when people ask you, what are you working on? How do you answer that question? Most people start with some long-winded, unnecessary description. Well, we were at Stanford and we discovered some really cool technology. You don't think of it as a nanotechnology, it's actually quite different. Like, where are you going with that? Stop. You're in the weeds. The only way to answer the question what you're working on, what your startup is, these 2 questions. When people will ask you, what do you do? So the way you want to answer that question is, what problem are you solving and who has this problem? Let's even practice today. What do you do? Or you can ask a question.
I was going to ask a question. Will you be posting these slides online?
If 20% of the people insist, then I shall give it. I can post it. Okay. So far, we have 5% request. Okay. Well, wait a minute. You haven't seen the slides. You may be disappointed. So let's take a look. So they do ask for the slide, but doesn't mean you have to comply. Yeah, that's right. I mean, they do ask for slide. So by the way, anybody, if I ask you somebody, what are you working on? What do you do? Who's going to answer it? Let's take it just a practice question. Not you again, but all right. If nobody else raises their hand, what do you do?
I'm building devices for diagnosing blindness causing diseases early.
Did you understand what he said? What does he do? Doesn't understand. Do you understand what he said? Diagnosing blood disorders. Very good. In fact, it's wrong. Yeah. But yeah, see, this is the point. You had an opportunity to impact 100 people. So you're doing something with blood disorders, no? Blindness. Okay, you said blood disorder. Yeah. So, okay, let me ask you some question. What are you doing with blindness?
So we are.
Where is my second microphone, man?
I'll
Okay. No, it's all right. We can do it high speed. Catch it. Yeah.
So we are.
Yeah, yes, on. Don't monkey with it. He's controlling the sound.
Oh, I see. Okay.
None of you. Don't ever touch the on-off button.
Okay. So we are taking images of the eye, and those images.
Don't tell me how you're doing it.
Okay.
What do you do?
Okay. I'm an entrepreneur.
What are you doing about blindness?
Oh yeah. So
You're curing it, you're fixing it, you're
Yeah.
inducing blindness.
So no, we will be able to diagnose these diseases very early, so that will prevent
What is
blindness.
what is visible? What is that word?
Diseases.
Diseases. You
Yeah.
can diagnose the disease early,
Very
like what,
early.
glaucoma?
We have glaucoma, diabetic retinopathy, AMD,
How?
by taking images of the eye.
All right. So let me try. Let me be him. What would you say? Okay, like hand it back. Otherwise, you may hang on to it for too long. So this, you see, he may want to say something like this: blindness is a debilitating disease. What if there was a way to diagnose it early without any medical procedure? Just because with your smartphone, we can. That's it. Now somebody's curious, like, what do you mean? How do you say it? Then you get into this conversation. But just start there. Let there be a little suspense. Open the right compartment of the brain. Something to do with blindness, something with smartphone or images. Okay, fine. So that's what you need to say. So all of you need to practice that. It's not easy to do. I'm going to next time ask 10 of you to answer this question. What do you do? What problem are you solving? So we'll practice that. Because why you need to practice that? Because every investor, every other colleague, you need to be answering this question. What do you do? And you need to have a packaged, succinct answer. What problem are you solving and who has this problem? Because that clarity of mind doesn't come easily. So that's what I was telling you. So just for fun, maybe should we try one more person on this side of the table? What do you guys do? All right, go ahead.
Hi, so my company Tribal is.
Who are you, which IIT?
Sanjeev Somani from Roorkee. So the question is what problem you're solving. So my company Tribal is solving the problem of enterprise sales productivity by enabling sales reps to learn from each other at scale.
Okay, thank you. What do you guys think? Good? So-so? Do you understand?
Good.
What do you think?
At a top level, it gives an overview of like
But
what it's
doesn't
trying to
he
do.
tell us why should we even care? He didn't give us any juice.
But I would still be curious to ask second order questions.
It's not bad, not bad. Any comment? What do you think? What he said made sense to you or no?
No, it didn't make sense to me.
Yeah, it makes too much sense. It's what a high level, it's kind of a thing you hear all the time. You know, enterprise. First of all, I don't really at this point care the name of your company because I don't even care if it's something I should pay attention to. So you may want to take a use case to define. They say, so let me be your version. In large corporation, there's a huge loss of knowledge as people leave and learn the same thing over and over again. What if there was a way to connect all your salespeople in a unique way so they can learn from each other and not make the same mistake. And even if they leave the company, the knowledge is captured. We solve that problem. So something like that. It's a potential use case. I don't know your company, I may be wrong completely, but some version of that may be more compelling. And this is why you want to build a story. The raising money from investors is all about storytelling. People love stories. People remember stories. There's a reason every religious book, Gita, Quran, Torah, Bible, is full of stories. It's not full of bullet points and PowerPoints. Nobody will remember. People remember stories. So you have to build a story. What is your story which is going to get people excited? And if story has a personal connection, even better. So think about it. It's all about storytelling. That's what you're going to come to by the end of the evening. Yeah, use the microphone for the yellow person.
Follow-up question, agree with you completely. But usually it's also a wedding cake, right? So it's like, if I have 30 seconds to just entice you, so you actually then ask me the follow-up question, then I elaborate on it and say, you know, the story and why and how we are
And my
different.
point is, don't. Why are you holding out till the elaboration question was asked? Most people won't even ask the second question. They'll get the samosa and get out to the next good-looking person. You have one shot. Take the shot. You know, many people do that. Okay, then when they'll ask me the second question, then I'll tell them the real story. What kind of logic is that? See, this was the logic all people used when you were dating in college. It never works. So point is that first thing you have to do when you at some relevant event, like fundraising event when investors go, you have to be, that's where you're going to meet them. They're not going to answer your email. They get thousands of email. So you have to either be introduced or run into them in a relevant place. So first thing you have to make sure, who are you talking to? Are they in your target zone? So very quickly, within 10 seconds, you have to establish you're talking to an investor, an entrepreneur, is it a potential mentor? As you network, you have to quickly assess. So you have to ask some questions. So you can figure out who is the person I'm talking to. And because your story may change, your ask may change. You may ask different things. Other thing I'm giving you some tips just before we get started, the things you should have in your pocket, ready to go. So first thing we talked about how you talk about your investor, how do you talk about your startup or your idea. Second thing is you're gonna need all of these things. Why? Because you have no idea which situation you're gonna find yourself in. You want a 10-second version, which is a true elevator pitch, like the one we practiced a couple of minutes ago. Then you have a 30-second version because it may be a situation when you have more than just the elevator ride. You're not talking in a cocktail party. You're actually being introduced by somebody and say, hey, this guy's my friend of mine, he's been working on something, like, let him tell you what you're working on. So you have the 30-second version. Then you're gonna have a 1 or 2 page executive summary, which has a specific topics it should address, and I'm gonna give them to you. And then you need to have a pitch deck, a 1-slide version, a 3-slide version, and a 15-slide version. Why? Suppose you're meeting at a restaurant. It's very cumbersome and awkward to whip out your laptop and try to show a presentation. Nobody likes it, waitress doesn't like it, you don't like it, and you're gonna spill your coffee. So just don't do that. You want a printed copy, the 1-slide version. No matter what any company, any public company, you can tell the story in a single slide. So you need to have you put the one printed slide, you walk through the story. Story is in your head. Then you have a 3-slide version because often you're asked to present a 4-minute pitch, 5-minute pitch, some competition. That's when you need the 3-slide version. And when you have your final real meeting, if you're lucky enough to get in front of an investor, the so-called 1-hour meeting, 1-hour meeting really has 20 minutes of you talking. Because other 20 minutes of them talking, asking question, they're 10 minutes late, and they start fidgeting the last 5 minutes saying goodbye. So you really have 20 minutes of speaking time. That's what you need, this 15-slide version. So anytime you should be ready with all of these things. What about the icebreaker? Why do we need the icebreaker, and what the hell is an icebreaker? Icebreaker is something which will make you stand out from other 17 people that talked to that night. Why? Because you took the extra time to look at LinkedIn, found out the guy went to Dartmouth and into ice hockey team. Now you have something to say. It's funny to see you played ice hockey. That's something I tried, but I showed up with my field hockey equipment or some joke like that, or that how your cousin also used to play ice hockey, but never went to Dartmouth. Something like that. It doesn't take effort, but so many times people show up knowing zero about the person they're about to meet. Thanks to LinkedIn and internet, no more than 1 minute of effort will reveal 2 or 3 interesting facts about the person you're about to meet. So if you have ready with these things, that will put you in the top 10% of all entrepreneurs investors are likely to meet, because very few of them are ready with these weapons. You need to ready with these weapons, not complicated to produce. All right, before we go further, so far any questions or comments? All right, we have a lot to cover, so no worries. We're not going to be running out of topic here. We'll be running out of time. Let's see what not to do. When you talk to investors or other people in general, when you're networking, don't be unnecessarily secretive. Desis tend to want to be secretive. You ask them questions like, what are you working on? Oh, technology. Well, that's good to know. Me too. Like, what kind of technology? Like, software. Okay, what kind of software? And then they'll wumble for a while. This is like, web technology. You just wasted an opportunity. Unnecessarily secretive. No good comes out of it. Just tell me, we are building an app for reducing fraud on online transaction for commercial banks. Well, now I can do something with that information. Wasn't that hard? Because you think somehow somebody's gonna just steal their idea and build it. If ideas come dime a dozen, I have several ideas every morning. Execution is the hard part. So you have to give enough juice to somebody so they can then give you something back. Because if you don't give them enough, they're not going to give you anything back. If you tell them that, you say, my neighbor is a commercial banker. Maybe you want to talk to him about, he was talking about fraud. Okay, now I found my last company, Bits and Mobile, found my first customer just like that. I'll be giving a class like this. I talked about that we are trying to sort the problem of authenticating iOS devices to corporate servers. And one guy came up to me and said, my wife works for Chevron. She was talking about that. Do you want to meet her? Yeah, I do. 6 months later, we had our first customer and $200,000 PO. So but if you don't tell that much, there was no connection would have been made. Don't be annoyingly vague, too high level or unnecessarily too low level. You have to gauge what's the right level of person interest. Give them something at that level. Your whole job is to intrigue them so they lean in. You do that in your personal life just fine. But somehow when it comes to investor or your startup, you get totally confused. So don't do that. And of course, please don't be boring. Now some of you think like, how do I not be boring? Well, I don't know. Ask your wife or husband. Point is no long speeches. I mean, you have to engage, you have to interact, what the other person says. Yes. What's your name, ma'am?
Madhuri, Kharagpur. So my question is, I've had VCs call me and say that we are evaluating your competitors and we want to talk to you to understand your product, and we haven't filed any patent applications yet. So even in that case, your advice would be that be completely transparent about what you're doing and
No. Because they're clearly telling you, at least this is an honest VC who's telling you we're looking at your competition. Most VCs won't even say that. So you have to ask the VC, are you looking at any other companies in this domain, or have you invested in any companies in this domain? Then they have to answer. It's like asking that, are you a cop? The cop has to say, I am a cop. Otherwise, it's an illegal arrest.
Thanks.
So yes, you don't have to tell them. But the key point is that even when you talking about your startup idea, remember there are 4 or 5 angles. What you do, when you're planning to do it, why are you doing it, and how do you do it? Which one of these 4 things is okay to talk about? And my point is, in general, unless it's your competition and maybe none of the above, you should talk about all of these except maybe not this. It's the how part which is the secret part, but what, when, you should not be so hesitant. Now, obviously, you're not going to go talk to your competitor or the VC who's looking at the competitor. You can say, look, we're not ready to talk to you. We'll be ready when we are ready, and you'll be the first one to know. You can make some kind of a comment like that. Okay. So let's talk about raising money. So before you realize that, do you have to raise money really? Let's ask that question. And answer is no. Not everybody has to raise money, and you can try to start with your savings and then use your profits to grow the business, which is perfectly okay. That's the people who started the Karyana shop, and all our parents and farmers, they do that. But that growth of business is like this over time, the revenue of the business. But sometimes you're in a race, and the business has to grow like this. Otherwise, you lose the race. So if you're doing something scalable and big, and it has to go like this, this is like driving in first gear. You can get there, it's going to take longer, your engine will be hot. Or if there's a race, you want to throw money at it so you can get ahead, drive in the 5th gear, you can get to LA in 4 hours. So this is when you need to take money from other investors just so that don't lose the race. Not all businesses need to be in that situation, but almost anything in IIT folks should be doing in Silicon Valley better be in that situation. Now, if you were living in Ludhiana, and then, fine, you can have a slow-growing business, but there's no time for a slow-growing business here. Why did you come all the way here? So you're going to do something dramatic and amazing. It's going to require some dramatic and amazing investors. So let's get used to that concept. So where are you going to go? What are your sources? Many of you may be thinking, all right, let me see which VCs I know. But wait. You're not ready for a VC. You're never ready for VC. You have to meet certain criteria before you can approach a VC. So you have several sources. Each source based on the timing and the amount. And each source has their own motivation. First, you have to go to friends, families, and fools. And I don't say that jokingly, this is a technical official term. Why do they give you money? Why would any of them give them money? It's not because they appreciate the nuance of your business plan. It's because they like you. They see something in you. So this is the people you should raise. The first 10, 20, even $50, $100,000 usually comes from friends, families, and fools. This is used to make sure what you're doing, is there a business plan? Who needs me? Who needs me more? What's my business model? How will I make money? What's my channel? All these components of business plan, you need to flesh out by using your own money, because nobody else will give you money because you don't even make sense yet. Yeah.
I was told that if you are already putting your time as investment,
Yeah.
you might be carried away by your idea, which may not be good. It's better to actually go and ask people for money, because if they are willing to put money, that means that it's a validating thing. They're validating by putting their money. Else you might be fooling yourself.
Yeah. Everybody heard that? Should I repeat it? You got it? Show me a thumbs up in the back. Yeah, okay, good. So answer is no. And let me elaborate. Elaboration is this, that you need to validate absolutely, but you need to validate with users and customers. Because no serious investor, other than friends, families, and fools, who will give it to you? So it's okay to approach them. But just because somebody gave you $10,000 doesn't validate it's a good idea. You have to validate by approaching customers and understanding their pain point, and then be able to articulate a solution and say a certain price point. Then you know somebody's going to buy that. So that what you're saying is, does not hold water. You may be able to raise money, 50, 100K by friends, families, and fools. It does no validation to the idea. No, by the time you get to the VC, okay, by the time you have, but they won't even talk to you till you have validated the idea. So short answer is no. So let's go deeper into that. Then you have, of course, crowdsourcing like Kickstarters. That's a relatively new phenomenon. It doesn't apply to everything, but applies to a hardware type of devices. And why do people invest in that? Not because they understand and appreciate the beauty of your business plan, because it's cool. Some cool thing they may get. So they're willing to spend, prepay, and get something like that. That doesn't validate your idea unless a large number of people are already buying it, and then you have some validation that this will make sense. So I've known company like Oya. Oya was making a $99 GameCube just based on Android. They went to VCs. VCs are like, get out of here, are you crazy? There's an Xbox 3, there's a PlayStation, and nobody's gonna buy a new GameCube. They put it on Kickstarter. This was the second most successful Kickstarter campaign. They were trying to raise $950,000. They ended up raising $8.5 million from 66,000 people who prepaid for a $99 box. So the most successful campaign on Kickstarter was Pebble Watch. 10 million they raised. So there's number two. And then they went to Kleiner Perkin, gave them 15 million because they proved that there's a market out there. So it could be used, could be used for market validation. Now you have, go ahead. Question is, what do we think about going to Shark Tank? And answer is, Shark Tank is a great marketing ploy. It's a difficult procedure to even get in, but this is already, first of all, they don't take idea, they have something already working and traction. And B, it's a great way to get marketing value from your company. So it's a good technique, but if you're just starting up with an idea, that's not the place. And the kind of technology you guys may be doing, that not a Shark Tank ideas. You're not making some gadgets so you can eat picnics in the park without different kind of plates, some stupid thing. You guys are from IIT, do something big. Shark Tank is not for you. Angels, who are angel investors? And why would they invest in you? Well, angel investors are, simply stated, rich people. So after you have bought your apartment buildings, you have stock market, you even have some bonds, you even bought some Bitcoins, you just have some money left over. So when you get to the age, a certain age, guess what happens? You become invisible to young people. They don't even notice you were standing there. So that's very disheartening. So if you can get some really smart and intelligent young people come listen to your advice and be respectful, that's priceless. That's what they do. So they invest in you because they see a younger themselves in you. Say, I was your age, I was just like the young man. I'm going to put money into him. Or they have deep domain expertise. The guy was in, trucking for 30 years. He knows all about trucking. His grandchildren don't want to hear about trucking. So when you come with a trucking idea, I want to spend a lot of time with you. How much money would you like? So you want to play on this thing. They have emotional reasons to want to be diversified and be relevant. So every company, raises money from angels. This is not unique or strange. If you're already famous, you can bypass these steps and directly go to VCs. But if you're not famous, you haven't taken the company successfully exit, you have to go through this method. So only when you get angel money and you have built something, now something is working, a box that beeps, and you have traction, then you go to VCs. VCs is not the first stop. And you go to VC, they kind of don't that much care about who you are. They're looking for traction. They're looking for proof point. The customers are buying it. They're looking for an exit. Remember, VCs are not necessarily rich people. They're not investing their own money in general. They're investing what? Other people's money. VC don't invest their own money. They get money from what they call LPs, limited partners. So a VC firm, they have large pools of money called LPs, and these LPs give them money. They go fundraising and pitch to them just like you do. So if you raise $100 million from like 3, 4, 5 LPs, and what's an LP? LP could be Harvard University Endowment Fund, $38 billion. What are you going to do? Put a little bit into VC. State of California Retirement Fund, CalPERS. They have to pay a pension. They have to put into some. So these are big chunks of money. So they put into VCs. VC then invest in different companies and trying to get them to exit. Exit could be an IPO, could be an M&A. Why? Because then they return the money back to the LPs. Of course, 80% of the gains are returned to them, and 20% of the gain is kept for themselves as bonuses. This is called carry, short for carried interest. And they also take 2% of the fund value as a yearly management fee. So if this is a $100 million fund, every year they'll take $2 million to pay their salaries and first class travel and all the expensive meals they have. And if they sell a company with some exit, then they'll take 20% of the gain as their bonus. So this is their model. They're not necessarily rich people. They happen to be rich because the only way you can become a VC is having successfully exited a company, unless you come from a financial background. So what my point is that this is a partnership, is a 10-year partnership. They have to do all this in the 10-year period. So suppose you approach them 4 years into their fund, they have 6 years left to invest in you, grow the company, exit the company. If they don't think they can get it all done in the time remaining, they won't invest in you. So when they say, it's not you, it's me, believe it. That is true. Normally, I know when people tell you that, girlfriend, you don't believe it. When she says, it's not you, it's me. But in this case, it's true. So, then you also have strategic investors. These are companies, almost every serious company has an investment arm. Google does, Facebook does, Salesforce.com does, Twitter does, Chevron does, even Cargill does, or used to at least. So in my last company, I went through all these phases. We raised the first $75,000 among the founders, which allowed us to hire some offshore developers. We got something beeping. Then we used that traction to go find $330,000 from local angel investors, 4 people. That allowed us to hire engineers here. We built a MVP. That was enough to get attraction of our first customer, Chevron, because it was a big name. Then VC gave us $2.5 million. 6 months later, Chevron Strategic Venture came. They said, we like what you guys are doing. Could we invest $1.5 million on top of that? We said, sure. So this is how we went through all the phases. This is common. You go through these phases. All right. So point is, doing this investment, you have to know the right source, the right time, the right process. And so what I mean by that is that you, as you go through from prototyping phase, using your savings, to product development, hopefully maybe angel money, then VCs, then when you're late stage, banks are not your friend, banks become your friend on a later stage. Why? Because bank is not risk capital. Bank wants a collateral. You have nothing to offer in the beginning, you have nothing to show. Later on, when you have accounts receivables, you have buildings and assets, then bank may be interested. There's something else called venture debt, but you have to be well funded by famous VC, and that's their collateral. That's how they give you money. So point is, who you go to depending on the stage of the business and the amount of money you're trying to raise. So let me answer any questions so far, because you guys are suspiciously quiet. I've never seen this group to be this quiet. Okay, Manishi always has a question, so I'll go here.
So when you start looking at the modus operandi of starting a company, wouldn't you want to differentiate between a consumer play versus an enterprise play or an infrastructure play, because the needs are very different? And so some of those steps may or may not be relevant, right?
Short answer is no. Okay. The reason is that even for, let's say you're doing infrastructure play, so it's big dollars, you're going to be raising $20 million as you Series A, you still have to figure out, what will I build? You have to go talk to 50 CIOs to construct a thesis, what is needed and why is it needed. So to do that, you just need travel money and enough money to hire a couple of analysts and some interns. So you don't need a big money. So you'll go through some savings, you go through some angel investors to do that, and when you go finally to VCs, you're going to ask for $20 million. So even these numbers have changed now. If VC, even 2 million is on the low end. It's a micro fund maybe, or some kind of a seed investment. They do seed investment. But Series A is kind of 5 to 10 million. So answer is, steps don't change. Now, if you already have exited company, you're famous, you can jump a step. Because you're already well known, you've exited a company, you will still do on your savings the first phase, then you directly can go to VC because they'll be chasing you. But in general, this step still applies. Yeah. I'll repeat for your question. Go ahead.
So many of us here have a full-time job and we are thinking of pursuing something. So at what stage along this development cycle would you have to quit your job and focus on it full-time?
Yeah, that's a pretty classic dilemma. And answer is, you have to quit your job when your heart will not even allow you to go to the normal work. A time comes your heart flips. Because you've been doing market research, you've been talking to customers, and at some point you almost can't stand, you really have to do it. And you'll be so driven that you will quit your job even without securing the funding. This is when VCs know that you have committed yourself. If you're still hanging on to your lucrative job and doing this a little bit on the side, they're not going to be likely to fund you. There are always exceptions. But they need to see that you have jumped off the cliff. You're totally committed. You're not going back. And if you don't feel that heart in your heart, you're not ready for that. It's the same thing when most of you were trying to get married. There was a time nobody could stop you. You were in. So that if you don't feel that pull on your heart, this is not the right time yet. So my point is that you are starting to do the market research. You're trying to talk to potential customers and users. More you learn, more you talk to your, Monishi, the third row, then more it becomes obvious that you have to do it.
Sometimes it's not the heart, it's the legality of it.
Okay, talk about legality. What do you mean?
Monishi said H1B, that might be an issue with.
Remember, H1B prevents you from working. H1B doesn't prevent you, or any visa, you could be in tourist visa, from being an owner. Anybody can start a company, be the owner. Now,
to stay here, he has.
Sorry?
But to stay here, H1B has to work.
Fine, what I'm saying, let's absorb the beauty of the point I'm making. You can come on a tourist visa, found a company, have the owner shares, set up a C Corp, and then go back, come back in a tourist. You cannot work, but you can start and hire people who are working for you. So you can. That visa is the least of your problem if you really want to start a company. So work has a definition. What is work? Yes. If I'm watching TV and coding, am I working? I don't know. Maybe not. So this is a definition of work. My point is, visa, to own a company, you don't need a visa. And what you do with your own time without compensation is your own business. So there's a ways around it. Yeah.
So, follow-on question to this. Yeah. I mean, this is Vishal, IIT Kanpur. Some companies may bound you to disclose if you have a C Corp or S Corp, right? What about that? I mean,
If some company wants you to disclose, like what company? Your employer?
yeah, you are working for a company, and then
Then you should disclose. You should not lie, because that will get you in trouble. So if a company does not want you to set up a C Corp, then don't. Then you have to quit your job and do it. So there's no reason to get into lying.
yeah, so that would be a legal thing.
That'll be a legal thing. In that case, you'll have to quit, if you're setting up a C Corp. But my point is this. Setting up a C Corp is not the step number 1. That's step number 8. So do the step number 1 through 7 first, which is what? I think I have a slide on that. But step 1 to 7 are, first ask yourself, am I really an entrepreneur? Because half of you are not. There's a test you can give yourself, a litmus test. If we can get into that. Then number 2, is there a big unmet need, and why is it unmet? That doesn't require you quitting your job. Then the question is, how big is the market? Then the question is, what's the persona of the ideal customer? Who needs me more? Doesn't require you to quit your job to answer these questions. What is the competitive landscape? What will be my positioning vis-a-vis others? What are the business model? How can I make money? When you can answer these 6 questions, and 7th question is, what resources do I need to get started? Then, and even then, you don't need to sound C Corp will come when you need to take somebody's money, investor or customer, or you have significant IP, you want to assign it to something so it doesn't grow in value. So you don't need to start. C Corp is your last problem. You got other problems.
Naeem,
Yeah.
one question. They say for strategic partners, investors, they say it's better not to select your own channel partner, because I know of a case with an IIT Madras guy. He tied up with Nielsen, and Nielsen invested in his company. A few years later, Nielsen said, we want to buy you out. So the fellow gave his price. Nielsen said, no, we want to buy it out at this price. And he was not in a bargaining position, because if Nielsen cut them off, that's 80% of his revenue gone.
Yeah. So those are real dangers. Taking somebody's strategic money also limits you who can buy you. So there are constraints like that. So you gotta be smart and think through this. That's why you want to take pure financial money. Their only objective is to make more money, which is angel investor and venture capitalist. Strategic investors, like corporations, they have other motives. Their motives, what we were talking about, that they want to interested in your technology, they're interested in your strategy, and sometimes it looks juicy, but it can come back to bite you. If Oracle invests in you, there's several companies who hate Oracle, they will not even make an offer. And one of the worst things you can do is right of first refusal. Because then this means basically nobody will make an offer, because they know the other party will find out, and then they can always, they will know all the numbers, and they can never let you buy it. So there are other mistakes. Next session we'll get into those kind of mistakes. Today is how to pitch, and no later than 8 o'clock I must be getting into pitching. This is the preamble before how to pitch. Yes, sir.
Explain what the accelerator is, where they come in that.
Yeah, where the accelerator comes in. Where does the accelerators come into this picture? Answer is, accelerators come in right between personal saving and an angel. And depends on accelerator, because there's multiple accelerators now, and getting into an accelerator is like getting into a good university. If you get into Harvard, everybody's guaranteed a good job. You have to really goof it up. If you get into Y Combinator, it's like getting into Harvard. It's not the instruction is that much better. Okay, it's a little bit better, but not really. But it's a reputation, because of the past performance, gets you visibility. And you get in front of people if you came out of Y Combinator. So that's like on the top of the list. But there are other, Tech Smart is good. Plug and Play, I've been in Plug and Play, the last 2 companies. Why? Because I'm in their accelerator program, because they take no equity. and you don't have to pay them anything. If you get selected, they give you free lunch and free space for 3 months. Then you have a demo day when you present to investors. So no harm, no foul. Why not? So each Y Combinator takes 7% ownership of the company and give you $120,000. So, but that 7% seems like a lot, but it's worth it. It's like I said, it's getting into Harvard. Your rest of your life will be pretty good. Or IIT, I was going to say, but there are too many people in here from IIT, so I have to use a different university.
No, we're going to be the best accelerator. The only thing is we won't take funds. We are a non-profit. We won't give you funds. We will not take stock. That's the only catch. We are more like Stanford StartX.
Sorry? Oh, okay. All right. So company valuation doesn't go linearly high from left to right. That's a misnomer. It goes something different than that. It goes like this. You hit this, what I call value inflection point. Here you have just an idea, nothing here, and your value is not going up. But suddenly you have a working prototype, value jumps. Then you have prototype, but nothing is going on until you have a customer, value jumps. So you have to look for these value inflection points. The best time to raise money is when? Right after hitting the value inflection point. Because you want to raise money in chunks. If you suppose you need $10 million to be highly profitable. Nobody's going to give you $10 million, and you shouldn't raise $10 million a year because you'll give 99% of the company away. So you raise enough money to hit the value inflection point, and you compute it's going to take 11 months, and looking at your financial model, it tells you it's going to require $750,000. So you raise only $1 million. And you may end up giving 15-20% of the company, but not 90%. And then you, using that money, you hit the next inflection point. Now your company value has gone up. Now you raise a little bit more money. So you raise money in chunks to hit the next value inflection point. I'm just pausing so this can sink in before I change the subject on you. So that's why you compute. How long does it take to go from A to B? Then you add about 6 months on top of it because it takes about 6 months to raise money. So if this was 11 months, you raise enough money to stay alive for 17 months. Yeah.
Having a customer gives you an inflection point, right? But having a customer gives you an inflection point. The question is what PO size makes sense, right? Maybe in some rule of thumb that you have or a percentage of ABC.
It's not the
right?
PO size. What really matters is who is the customer and how many other customers are like that. Is it replicatable?
So you're looking more at the TAM, SAM.
Forget TAM, SAM. You're not in MBA class. You're looking for how many other customers look like this. They have the same problem. So when we got our first customer was Chevron. Why did they buy us? They use smart card to log into their laptops. They have two-factor authentication. So we looked for how many other large companies have this kind of a problem. They use two-factor authentication. And then that will allow us to do who could be our next 20 customers. So it's not SAM, TAM, SAM, forget all that MBA BS. Just very practical, bottom-up, realistic, who can I get? How many such people exist? Now, if you're doing something B2C, something online, then you're talking about monthly recurring revenues and annual recurring revenues, and you have those other metrics. So we'll talk about what metrics, but there's different metrics depending on the kind of business you're in. Return your microphone, please, because you're about to be mobbed. Manishi. Okay, yeah.
So how do you adjust this with, okay, Pankaj, IIT Delhi. How do you adjust this? When I've talked to some of my friends, when they go raise money, it's like there's some standard percentages that if you're doing Series A, like 25 to 35% was given away, and there's like this set marks. So how do you balance that with the money you're trying to raise? Or
see, the thing is that you, and I think we're going to get into that. We have some slides coming up, but let's give you a preview. The point is, how much money you ask for is not a function of time. I ask many people, how much money do you need to raise? They say, oh, $1 million, good. I said, why $1 million? It's good for a year. See, that's the stupid answer. Good for a year? How do you know you're going to be any less risky or have reached an inflection point in a year. A year looks long enough. No, you have to build a financial model. You have to compute. We can do a whole session on this, but let me just give you quickly a version of how to build a financial model, the 2-minute version. Normally it's a 2-hour class, but let's do it. You say what kind of title you need to hire: CEO, a software engineer, a marketing manager, a product manager. Okay, this is month number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe up to 24 months. When do you need this person? Well, this person I need right away. Software person, I don't need first month, then I need 1, then I need 2, maybe then 4, then 6, whatever. Marketing person, I don't need for a while, but then I need some part-time guy here, maybe full-time, whatever. You build something like that. You multiply that. What is the typical salary of this person, position? You multiply the salary, let's say it is $8,000. And you add up all these numbers. That gives you your monthly burn rate. That's 22.4 thousand, 31.6K, 41K, whatever. When by multiplying salary with when do you need this person? All right, you got it? And then what about all the other stupid expenses which I don't know how to compute, like rent and food and travel? You can go crazy trying to compute all that. Don't worry about it. You take this number, you multiply with a burden rate. Burden rate could be as low as 22% to as much as a 50% or even 100%. I use something like 35% typically. So I multiply this number with 1.35. That gives you my gross burn rate. Because this 35% takes care of all that miscellaneous thing you have no time to compute. Rent, medical insurance, state taxes, payroll, blah, blah, blah. If you want to be more conservative, use 50%. And then you add up these numbers. Now you compute it talking to your technical guys that we're going to have our prototype up and running, tested in 11 months. Since you're going to raise money for 11 plus 6 months extra, you need money to raise 17 months. Then you go to month 17. This is month 17 because you had 24 months plan. You add up all these numbers, and that comes out to be $941,000. I'm making it up. So you go raise how much? You go raise some number, you raise $1 million or maybe $1.2 million. But now you have a basis how you came up with this. That's your 2-minute story on how to build a financial model. So this is a long answer to the question. You compute the number, how much you need. Once you compute the number, how much you need, VCs have their own computation. That what percent of the company they need to own at exit to make it worth their while. Each VC firm have their own computation. Like Sequoia Capital, I know, if they're not going to make $100 million, they're not going to invest in you. They have to make $100 million. Why? Because 10,000 business plan approach them every year or more. How many investments did they make in 2016? 12. So they could be choosy. They want everyone to have potential to make $100 million. So if they have to make $100 million, they're going to compute what percent ownership they need of this company now so they can maintain that percent at the exit. So they compute the valuation, which will give them the desired percent for this money. If it's not clear, I can do an exercise for you. Should I? Okay, it's distracting from me. I'm cutting you guys off at 8 o'clock because I got to tell you how to pitch. So, but this is actually a very low number. This is like a series seed. I'm going to change it to like VC $4 million because you don't raise 1.2 series money for VC. So Sequoia or some capital could say, this company we think can exit in some 4 years at this price, probably let's say at $300 million, based on our analysis we have done, based on all the young MBAs we have hired. This company is raising Series A now. They probably will raise a Series B, a Series C, maybe then they'll have an exit. If we need to make, let's say, $100 million, we better own 33% of this company, so the 33% of this number will be our $100 million. So there may be some dilution because of they're not able to participate with their full pro rata, right? So if they own 33, they better own 35% here, which will better own 37% at this Series B. This is C. So this means they better own 40% now. Okay? So if they own 40% now, then this can go down to 33% at exit. What should be the company value? Okay? So company value, we don't know what the company value is, we're going to compute it, X. We're going to put $4 million because company told us they need $4 million right now. So what we will own, we'll own 4 out of 4 plus X. So we own 4 divided by 4 plus X, and that better be 40%. Now all of you are smart IIT people, you can compute the value of X. Who is fast? Tell me the value of X. 6 million. It's a simple equation, yes. So yeah, so X will be, divide this, bring it here, 4 divided by 0.04 minus 4, and this comes out to be 6 million. So this is how they compute the valuation of the company, so they can own. And you're right, Series A typically will be between 25 and 40%, the VC will have. After Series B, it'll be 55 to 60%. After Series C, it'll be 70%, yeah. But pie is getting bigger too. Who's confused so far with this, my simple example? Because, yeah, go ahead.
6 million is a pre-money valuation.
Pre-money valuation, exactly. Because the way it works is, this is the pre-money valuation before the money comes in. After money comes in, this is your post-money valuation. So these are the terms you may use, pre-money, post-money.
How much money is too much money?
Well, it depends on what kind of business are you in. I was just talking to this, look at companies like Ubers and Airbnb, they're in billions of dollars. So what the business needs, so it doesn't, so this is the funny point. So entrepreneurs think, would VC, should I raise from VC 2 million and 6 million or 4 million or 100 million? Well, it's a silly question. Do the financial model, what does the business need? That's how much you raise. Point is to go to the next value inflection point and beyond. So I am on a board of a company, they haven't even raised Series A exactly the last 2 years. 19-year-old founder, dropped out of Stanford, those genius people, and they have raised $40 million and haven't done Series A yet. This is all on convertible notes, angel money, so to speak. Because their company was so hot, people were willing to write the checks. All right. So, I have slides on financial model. Who knew? Yeah, we need the financial model because that VC is going to need that. So you better know, you do the financial model, which is simple Excel spreadsheet. It's not complicated. Over there, guess you'll be a little annoyed to find out what we did on the board on the left-hand side. We have built 40% of the financial model already. So it's not complicated. Someday, even if people aren't, we can do a class on how to build a financial model. Of course, there's a whole book on this topic, and it's a skinny book, because I know you don't like to read fat books. It's how to build a financial model. But anyway, we can get into that if time permits later today. Okay, timing. First thing, I want you to lower your expectations. This is the process of starting a business. All of you have highly educated, well-funded people, so be careful. Look at the dotted line. Above the dotted line is happiness, below the dotted line is unhappiness. When you start, you're right there, very excited. Everybody's initial enthusiasm. Very quickly, you fall into this trough of sorrow. You're going to live in the trough of sorrow for a long time. Every once in a while, things will beginning to get looking good, you get all excited, but don't, because they'll stop looking good. Only if you're lucky, you may hear a clicking sound, and that is the product market fit. Most people never hear it. It's pretty miserable. I have lived most of my life in trough of sorrow. So you will ask, why would somebody want to live in the trough of sorrow? Because there's always hope. And entrepreneurs are kind of those strange misfit of society, strange people. We don't fit into normal companies. We easily get fired. We don't follow all of the instructions. So that's the kind of person, that's where he likes to live. I'm serious. Most Friday nights, you'll find me at my house, in my couch, all lights turned off, in fetal position, with a scotch in my hand. Not a pretty sight. But by Monday, somehow, I'm back, baby. So this is kind of people entrepreneur. Remember I said I'll give you a test? This is one of the 5 tests you want to give yourself. Can you bounce back by yourself without any help? Because entrepreneurs have to. There's no other way.
That's why we are at also on Thursdays.
That's right. On Thursdays? Thursday we are all going gung-ho and just killing it. Right. So that's the product market fit we just talked about. Okay. So are you investor ready? My point is most of you may not be investor ready. The reason is, why would somebody want to invest in you? Fact is, they're looking for these 5 things. You want to have a strong, big vision, big idea. Who are you? What are you trying to accomplish? If this sense that you're just trying to get another job, but except in this case, you don't need to have your nasty boss, so you can live off VC funding, they will not fund you. They want to fund people who have a bigger purpose in life. They're motivated to go there. Reason is that since you're in trough of sorrow, it's like going to pilgrimage. Unless there's a bigger objective at the end, you're going to give up. Because you're like, what am I doing here? I can make good money, have a decent life. My family isn't happy with me. My spouse doesn't like me anymore. I'm working here on Saturday night. Why? So this big, hairy, audacious goal, which can world-changing, life-performing, has to be visible. You have to be able to articulate it. Yes, sir, all the way in the back. You can shout out, I'll repeat it.
Rama from IIT Bombay. So when you say a strong vision, right, now the thing I'm trying to balance is, how do you balance between vision and exit? Because you might have a strong vision, you want to change the world, but at some time you got to make an exit, and that's what VCs are looking for. So how do you balance those?
Well, so first of all, you don't talk about the exit. Exit happens. That's not the objective. Objective is to make a dent, do something dramatically different. So it's not vision is I want to change the world. That's like in his case was to address and cure blindness earlier. That's a big vision. You can impact many people's lives. It's not just his way to make an extra $200,000 salary as a CEO of a startup company. He wants to do something bigger because he can get that salary someplace else right now. So they want to hear it. Why do you want to do this thing? What's the big deal? What's driving you? So especially if the connection is personal, because my grandma suffered from blindness, which could have easily been cured. And even my wife looks somewhat blind to me from time to time. That's why I want to do this. Okay, I can see you're motivated. So then second thing is you want to identify a real unmet need. How did you know it was an unmet need? That's why, what do you think is the average age in US is for an entrepreneur? Many of you may think it's early 20s. No, it's 37. And that's average, which means many of them are 45. Why? Because when you work in the industry for 5, 10, 15 years, that's when you begin to form strong conviction that this could be done better. You need to have because when you're 22 years old, your biggest problem is what? How to deliver a pizza in your dorm room after midnight. So you're thinking of those kind of stupid ideas. So you need to have some real life traction, and that comes from having real understanding of the problem. Then you need to find a core team. Nobody funds a solo founder unless you're already famous. The reason is anything worthwhile requires complementary skill. You need people who are as good as you, but in a different area. You won't start a football team with 5 goalies. Why would you start a company with 5 engineers? You need different skills, but you need alignment on what? On alignment on motivation, alignment on objective and ethics, but you want non-alignment on skills. So when you have the A player, A team, and you can tell them very quickly when they are, that's really critical. Then clarity on who needs you more. What problem are you solving and who needs you more? Every product you can think of, ask you, like this blindness thing he's talking about, who needs this? His answer will be everybody. Well, that's good to know. But who needs you more? There's somebody who needs you more. I don't know who. Women, men, young people, rich people, poor people, students, some ethnicities, I don't know. But if he can get down to some clarity that it's the Punjabi female mutiars who really suffer from this early onset of blindness, and there's my target market, then he knows where to find them, how to talk to them, what to say to them, and that's his initial segment. So that's kind of clarity is very essential. And number 5, you need to know your metrics, unit economics, customer acquisition cost, customer lifetime value, your gross margin. So these things are not complicated, easily could be explained. So you need to have, you will not know those things till you have spent some time running some numbers, talking to customers. So most important thing about approaching customer is, do not approach a customer unless you have spoken to 50 to 100 users and customers. Not to show them, hello, Mr. Customer, we're just thinking of this new product. It kind of really fits in your hand. It's very smooth surface. Do you like it? That's like lame attempt at selling. That's not market research. Market research has nothing to do with your product. Hide it. It's like understanding their need. Have you thought about this thing? How do you solve this problem? Who makes the decision? When do you decide? Where do you look? Whose advice do you take based on the decision? How big it has to be? How cheap it has to be? You're trying to understand everything in their mind. Then you will think of a solution. So this is the kind of things you need to do before you can approach an investor. Any comment or question before we move on? So the team player, you notice in a jazz quartet. All right.
I've gone through this. A lot of it evolves from the first customer and the feedback that you get from the first customer to make the product bigger and bigger.
Remember, when you hold the microphone, you got to speak into the microphone.
Yeah, okay. As the product evolves, the margins will evolve. The size of the deal, the PO will evolve. So one has to get in with a certain simpler form of a product with a vision, and then over time layer on more things based on feedback from the customer. In this case, I know the types of customers because I've worked with them for many years. But I have to enter with a slightly simpler, like one problem, specific problem.
So express your thoughts in the form of a question.
Okay. I know you're a professor, you like it expressed out. So the question is, you go to a customer, isn't it better to address one simple niche problem, even though I know that the customer would, over time, prefer a bigger kind of a solution which addresses multiple problems they have. So as a result, when I first start with a product, my product may look just X and Y, right? Over time, there may be A, B, C features to it, and X, Y, Z features to it.
You made your point twice. Come finish your question so I can answer it.
So you won't know the metrics till the company has matured to some degree. Don't you agree?
I do not agree. The answer is, of course, you're going to start with something very specific and narrow for customer. Absolutely correct. Imagine when a pilot starts off from New York, headed for San Francisco, he has a flight plan. Does he follow the flight plan to the exact degree? No. He makes mid-life correction depending on the wind condition, other planes coming and going, so you make the correction. But you need to have a flight plan. You need to have a general direction heading. So you do some based on your model, how much can I make this thing for, how much can I sell this for? You have an estimate for all these things. And as you find reality customer, then these estimates change. But you cannot start with a blank state and go to a VC, say, hey, give me $1 million. How will you sell? How will you make money? We'll figure it out. Don't worry about it. So
this is sometimes called MVP.
Over time, of course, yes. Answer is it will evolve, and you'll keep changing. If you have a model, then you can change the model. If you have no model, you have nothing to change.
See, this is sometimes called MVP, minimum viable product. You start with that, and then you evolve on that.
Jnani Palani Kumar, IIT Madras. So I want to respond to his question. Normally, you calculate the customer lifetime value for the next 4 years. Okay, that will determine what are the other metrics you are going to do.
So depending on B2C, that you will do that, yeah, exactly. Something SaaS business, that's how you will do that. Yeah, all the way in the back.
So kind of related question on, so a lot of the, like at least people like me or like computer science graduates or people who are working in the tech industry, a lot of times we start off like with the lower, from the bottoms up, right? Oh, we can do this slightly better, hence we can make it slightly better. And then you kind of run with that. How do you balance that out? And these things don't even figure in that picture. Like how do you make sure that actually this is a good vision also?
So point is, if you can just do something slightly better, you're not likely to attract investors' money. Investors want to invest in things which are breakthroughs, 10 times better, something dramatic, changes the way people do things. See, this is the thing, this VCs, if you're in Omaha, Nebraska, that may be interesting to the local investors. But Silicon Valley, there's so many smart people running around with, there are 10,000 business plans right now walking around looking for money. So you have to be dramatically better. I know it's tempting over on the Sunday with your friends think, we can do slightly better. But that's not a sufficiently attractive reason to quit your cushy jobs. Think harder. Be more dramatic. Yes, all these things, you can compute, they can estimate. I may use this phrase multiple times because it's very important for you as engineers to hear. Your assumptions don't have to be accurate. Let me say it again. Your assumptions don't have to be accurate. They have to be reasonable. They have to be reasonable. Nobody knows. VCs know you have no clue what will be your revenue in year 2, 3, and 4. They know that you don't know. You don't know. You don't know your gross margin and any of these things for sure. Of course you don't know. You don't have to be accurate. You don't have to be correct. You have to be reasonable. So as long as you can show your assumption and make reasonable assumption, that's a good model. Because as you're flying, you'll make corrections and they'll be continue to refine. Okay, thank you.
Kiran from IIT Guwahati. When you actually come up with this, it takes few months to actually make sure all these things are right. But the world is moving very fast. How can you be very sure that your data is even reasonable? Because the world would have changed from the investor's perspective.
Yeah, so the world is changing, but take a snapshot and stick with it. Work faster, so you don't have maybe 5 months. And even if by the time you go to VC, your data is 4 months old, not a big deal. Things have changed, but they haven't changed 10x. They've changed maybe 40%. But you thought about it. What you're trying to show the investor that your mind is geared correctly. Mm-hmm. You have a model in mind. Your coefficients will change as new data comes in, but you have at least a model to plug the coefficients into. Because there are lots of people who are clueless, they have no coefficient. They don't even have a model. They yaar de yaar. Yeah.
I might be actually asking the question on the next slide maybe. You see, I'm an engineer and boring engineer. Except for my 6-year-old daughter, nobody finds me funny. Finding other people other than engineering, where do you find? Where do they live? Where do they exist?
They also have the same problem. Yeah, they have the same problem. The other people have the same problem. But you ask a very good question. It's an important question. And the answer is, you're not going to find them between your couch and your TV. You have to get out of the house. Because many people try to find them between the couch and TV. Ya to milta nahi hai. Well, of course not. You have to get out, like here. Now, this may not be the ideal location because there are other smart engineers like you, but they know other people too. So point is, you have to be out. I usually eat dinner at home on Sunday. That's it. Usually I'm at an event or meeting people, either speaking or listening or talking and whatnot. So you have to spend this extra energy. When you really think you want to do the startup, even on the Sunday parties when you get together other families, take a walk with a couple of guys. Talk about this thing. They will know other people too. Sit down in your cafeteria with somebody from the other department and say, what are you working on? See, you don't have to be complicated. Ask people, what are they working on? People love to talk. All you have to do is pay attention. So it's hard. There's no easy answer. But I'm telling you where you're not going to find them, and you may find them. Getting out, talking to people, going to event, listening to it. Like even today when you came here, how many other people you spoke to tonight? I have an answer. Exactly. So this it's a missed opportunity. for you to just talk to the guy next to you, hey, what are you working on? Where do you work? Your job is not to leave this room till you have at least 3 conversations and collect 3 business cards. Collecting 3 business cards is not easy. I want you to write one thing on the back of the card which is not on the front of the card. So you have to ask some question to have something to write on the back of the card. This is your test. If you can start doing that, 3 cards and something has to be written on the back of the card. You'll be surprised in 4 months, your circle of friends may be expanded. And what do I mean by back of the card? What are you reading these days? I'm looking for a new book to read. What are you watching on Netflix? Are you planning any summer vacation? Anything, doesn't matter. Do you know anybody who is into finance? I'm looking for a co-founder. Even that could be the question. Because when you have written something on the back of the card, now you have a permission to contact them within 3 weeks and send them something which is relevant to what you wrote on the back of the card. Guess what happened? You just made an emotional deposit. Once you have made a few emotional deposits, you're entitled to withdrawals. Some people, many people I know, try to make a withdrawal the moment they meet you without any emotional deposit. They get insufficient fund fees. So you got to, so when you start doing that, make emotional deposit, write something on the back of the card, you'll be surprised your circle will begin to expand. And I'm not asking you to go out every night. I want them one night a week. Girls' night out, you go network. You just start doing that. It's not complicated. And if you go to meetup.com, there's so many meetups going on. Go to startupdigest.com. They list all the events happening in the Silicon Valley. Many of them are free. Startupdigest.com. Put your email. They send you an email every Monday morning, what's going on in the Valley, and meetup.com. So look at those 2 places and start attending 1 event per night. Within 6 months, you'll be like, you wouldn't believe your circle.
In fact, in this event, we allow for about 1 hour of mixer time before and after. And the idea is that you should meet, and the good food is to loosen your tongue so that you can talk, flow. That's it.
Although, Manish, I have to say, this dosas were an excellent idea.
That was Indira's idea. She's sitting up there.
So much better than any...
She was so mad about the liquor being served last time. She said, we want dosa instead of liquor.
Well, dosa plus liquor will be even better. But you know, this Gora food, you know, that's not very interesting.
Ishita from Kharagpur. So question is about geographies. What kind of VCs should I go after? For example, if I'm building an enterprise hardware product, which is not infrastructure, is Silicon Valley the best place, or should I look at Midwest VCs? Because the valuations are also different.
What kind of infrastructure?
It's not infrastructure, it's enterprise hardware. So the product is, so the product I'm looking at will prevent collisions at airports, collisions between service vehicles and aircrafts.
Of course, Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley. If you're told me doing something about a movie project, or then I'll say go to Hollywood or anything technology, you're the right place. And it's not complicated because unlike angel investors, all VCs have websites. And they tell you their whole background. They even tell you what kind of things they're interested in looking at. So all you have to do, go to find out the partner who's investing in kind of things you are interested in building. And then now your job is go to LinkedIn and find somebody who can make an introduction to you. VCs get thousands of requests every month. They only pay attention to something which came through a referral, especially referral of somebody they know and trust, like ex-entrepreneurs, one of the company they invested in, another VC, a professor, a lawyer. So that's how you connect with the right VC once you have done the research. But absolutely, anything infrastructure, collision avoidance, this is the place. Midwest.
I'm based in Chicago right now.
Oh, no. So get over here, will you? Yeah, you'll find much better reception here. You can even do A/B testing. Go to 5 investors there, 5 investors here. You'll see the difference. Yeah. Okay, I know we're running behind schedule though. Yeah.
I'm Indira. I'm from IIT Madras. The question is, like you talked about the product market fit. Oh, it talked about product market fit, but what about monetization? Maybe there is a good fit, but the monetization doesn't look really good because the demographics may not really have the money to pay for it. For example, let's say the students are your demographics, right? Customer base. So what do you do in that case?
Well, there are many ways to do monetization. You find somebody who is willing to pay for it. Somebody, if nobody has a big enough problem, they're willing to open the checkbook, then that's the wrong business. So there are different business models to make money. How do television stations make money? They sell ads. How does Dropbox make money? They give you free stuff and then freemium, hoping so there's a business model. If that whatever problem you mentioned, students, maybe it's not the student, it's the parents who will give the money. Students are the users, parents are the customers. Or it's the school system who will pay. If nobody is willing to pay, then do a new business, get out of that. Then maybe it's a non-profit. So you can make it a non-profit. So point is, you have to have a compelling business model, otherwise you're not going to attract investors. All right. So my point here was that if you see a jazz quartet, everybody knows how to play their instrument well. There's not a lot of conversation going on back and forth. There's no conductor, unlike orchestra. So everybody plays their instrument and good music comes out. That's what an A team looks like. Everybody's expert in their own area. You don't need to have a lot of chatter. So think of those people. Do you have the core A team in place? And then you have to identify who needs you more. What's the sliver you need more? What kind of people will want you more than other people? Then you need to figure out your unit economics. So unit economics is this concept that on a single unit, how much money will you make? How much profit will you make? If you're not able to articulate that, then you're not investor ready. So let's take a simple example. Let's say a cup of coffee. How much revenue per cup of coffee can you expect? So, your revenue may be, I don't know what coffee costs, let's say $4. What is your cost of goods sold, COGS, which means all the variable cost to make that cup of coffee? So that will be what? That will be like your beans, plus milk, plus sugar, plus the cup, plus the labor to make the 1 cup of coffee, the variable cost. So we can go deeper. I'm just doing a little high speed with you guys. Let's say that comes out to be $1.50. So your gross profit is $2.50. Then you take all your sales and marketing costs, advertising and whatnot. You take all your research and development cost. Whatever is not selling or making is general and administrative cost. You add them all up. You divide them by number of cups sold, and you can come up with a per cup number. Let's say per cup number is $2. This is called, by the way, OPEX, operating expenses. You divide this OPEX from the gross profit, you come up with your net income per cup. In this case, it will come out to be 50 cents. Okay? This is the kind of unit economics. On a per cup basis, how much gross profit will you make? After all the different variables, what income will you make on a per cup basis? This kind of clarity is invaluable. That's the kind of clarity your customers want to see. So we can go deeper into this topic of computing financial model and clarity, but today my job is to give you a high-level view of how deep you need to be before you approach investors. So some of these concepts may be foreign to you today, but by reading the relevant books, write blogs, and a couple of these lectures, you'll feel pretty comfortable. These are not fundamentally hard concepts.
I think let's move on to the next topic.
Should we?
We'll just.
How about this young gentleman asking the first question?
Just a very quick question. So when you're saying, the unit income, the net income, so are you assuming a particular volume at which, and that's in the future?
Yeah, you assume some stability. When business becomes stable, year 3, year 4, year 5, then you compute these numbers. Because in year 1, it's like totally wacky. The reason you do unit economics looking forward, when a business stabilizes, will it make sense? Will it be sufficiently profitable? If answer is no, what can I change to make it so? If answer is no, then don't do it. So point is, you look forward. You make some assumptions, as long as they're reasonable. They don't have to be accurate. They have to be reasonable. We just made some assumption on some of these things right now. So, point is, you got to do your homework. You got to identify the unmet need. You have to do the research. Then you're investor ready. So all these things we talked about, you should be able to articulate those things before you're considered investor ready. And do you need a prototype? Answer is no. What you need is some way to ignite their imagination. If they can imagine themselves this product existing and them using it, then you have accomplished. Then the mind is turning now. You can do that with a prototype, or you can do that with a demo, or screenshots, or proto.io, whatever, or just drawing by hand, whatever. There's no such requirement. More compelling it is, more they can believe it, and more they can get excited about it. So there's no such requirement. Your job is to get their imagination come alive. So Manishi, whatever we don't cover today, we can always dovetail into the next week.
Sure.
So, yeah, so this way, because I'm still not getting into what's in a pitch. Now I'll get into it, but then we can spend more time next time.
Okay.
But I want to spend a few minutes, unless you think it's not necessary. How do people invest? What do they give you? So maybe just spend maybe 10 minutes on this. So let me ask you this. How much would you pay for this box? What is it worth? What will be a fair price you'll put on it? Yeah, some people put $1, some say like, I don't know what's in the box. Should it be 100? Actually, you are all Desi audience, but when my Gora students, I ask them, how much you will pay for pakoda? And they have no idea. And some people say $100, so like $10. I don't know what a pakoda is. Well, guess what? That's how the investors feel about your company. To them is a black box. How do you value it? So suppose you want to raise $1 million from this investor. How many shares are you going to give to the investor? Well, I don't know. Well, what is the share worth? So you want to avoid this whole conversation. You want to avoid this whole conversation, especially when you're dealing with an angel investor or some other non-VC. You want to use something called a convertible note. Convertible note is a loan. It's a special kind of loan which will automatically convert into shares of your company when a VC finally puts a price on the company. So the way this process works of raising money looks like this. See, when you start, when you set up your company, you go to state of Delaware and you come up with some number of authorized shares. Authorized shares. You notice this number will never enter any computation as a denominator or nominator or denominator. You start now selling some shares. In the beginning, let's say you sell some number of shares to founders. Founders put some money in and the company sells them some shares. Let's say 3 million shares were sold to the founders. If there are 2 founders, they split the 3 million. You then set aside some shares as an employee stock option pool, so you can give some stock option to people to attract your VPs and developers and whatnot. So now let's say 1 million shares were allocated for that. So now you have 4 million shares which has been outstanding, which has been sold. Then you find an investor. An investor gives you some money and you give them shares. Okay? Suppose in this example, investor is giving you $2 million. How many shares to give them? Well, depend what is the company was worth. So in the example we did, when company was worth $4 million, the moment you agree company is worth $4 million, or what did we say, $6 million example. So now the stock price will be $6 million, the value. How many shares do we have understanding? 4. So it's $1.50 a share. This person is putting in, let's make it simple math, $3 million into the company. So they will get how many shares at this price? This divided by this, 2 million shares will be issued to this investor only because we were able to confirm the valuation of the company being 6 million. Because the moment you agree on a valuation, you can compute the share price. Then you know how many shares to issue them. Okay, that's how it works. Got it? It's usually confusing to people, so don't be embarrassed if it doesn't make sense. It's my job to explain. If you don't understand, I look bad.
If you have another investor coming in maybe 3 months later, 6 months later, whatever it is, right? Do you basically have new baseline, or because you can create another value?
So he's saying, what if another investor comes in a little bit later, like a couple months later? What happens? Do you use the same price or different price? And answer is, it depends. If it's close enough, you may just open the series again and use the same price, because you do the known price, you got to go to the whole procedure again. It's going to cost you $50,000 of legal fees. It hurts because company has money, it's made for progress, should be new price, but you don't want to issue a new price that's so close. You want to separate your series A, B, C by year and a half, 2 years. By the way, what is series A, B, C? Anybody wonder? Anybody, like, what am I talking about here? So every time you sell, when you start a company, you buy shares as founder. These are called common shares. When an investor comes in and he wants to put real money into the company, they want special privileges. They want control of the board. They want to have veto rights. They want to have information rights. So their shares are called preferred shares. These shares we issue called preferred shares. We'll talk more about difference between common and preferred next time we meet. The point I'm making is, when you issue the first set of preferred shares, you have to call them something, and normally they call them Series A, because the Series A preferred. 1 year later, you sell some more shares to the second investor. There's a different price, maybe different terms and condition. You can't give them the same name. You got to give a different name. So you call them Series B. And you may do that at Series C. So it's not uncommon for a company to raise money from investors 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times. So every time you bump the series number. So that's Series A, Series B, Series C. That's what it means. We'll get more into detail next time. Let's not spend time too much on that. But if it's super confusing or my math was confusing, then ask me now. The young lady in the second row looks confused.
Actually, I think they are engineers, so this will be a weakness for them.
Yeah.
I suggest you buy some of these books, read them up before you come the next time, so you're familiar with the common terminologies.
I brought a bunch of copies. Let's finish the lecture.
Sandeep from IIT Bombay. So I attended a bunch of screening meetings, and it seemed when the market was good, the entrepreneurs could suggest convertible notes, but the investors always wanted equity for tax reasons. So they're always trying to push you to their terms, and so there's some kind of negotiation. When do you agree to their terms and when do you not?
So the really that comes down to, you do a convertible note or you do a priced round. So priced round, somebody wants to, let's even explain his question. So what's the tax benefit here? Tax benefit is, when you buy some shares and you hold them for a year or longer, you pay long-term capital gain tax, which is 20%, used to be 15. If you sell them quickly, then you pay 39%, whatever your tax rate is. So you want to buy your shares if company is going to exit in less than a year. That's the reason to buy your shares. When you do convertible note, you're not buying the shares yet. Shares will come to you when somebody does a VC round. So that fear of people wanting to buy tax season looks like these investors are amateurs. Because no company is going to get sold in less than a year. It's possible, but highly unlikely. So these are just people who used to buy real estate buildings. Now for the first time they're trying the tech investment, and they're still using the old rules. I will stay away from them. So whatever. Yeah, in the back.
Do you have a cap of some kind, even with convertible notes?
Well, we're getting into cap. Just hold on a second. So point is, the convertible note is a quick way to get the money because there's no paperwork to be done. This, you can download the convertible note. If you Google it, the examples, you go to ycombinator.com, they already have free copies you can download. So this convertible note could quickly be downloaded. It's not you don't have a legal fee. In $1,000 of lawyer fee, just review it, you can get it done. So it's a quick way to raise money. So I can raise money, 50,000 from him, 10,000 from him, 100,000 from him, and they don't have to be done in the same day. I can take his money in January, his is February, and somehow I can quickly create an angel round. So when the VC round, all these notes will convert into preferred shares. So they all disappear. So there are two issues with the convertible notes. One, I'm investing before the VCs, I'm taking more risk. How come I'm paying the same damn price as they pay? That's unfair. Well, and the second problem is, what if you become too successful? I was put in $1 million. I was expecting to get, I don't know, 10% of the company, maybe 20. But you became so successful, you raised your money at $50 million pre-money. And my $1 million only got me 2% of the company. You wouldn't have gotten so successful unless I gave you my money. I'm getting screwed because of your own success. This happened to Dropbox, by the way. This problem started with Dropbox. They took bunch of angel money. Their first Series A was 30 million pre-money. So all the angel investors got like nothing. So there is a solution to these two problems. First solution is discount on the price the VCs will pay. If VC is going to pay, let's say $1 a share, my convertible note will convert at 80 cents a share. So I'll get extra shares. So you negotiate a discount. A typical discount is 20%. There could be some exception based on other things, but yeah, typical. Second thing, you come up with a cap on valuation. That, okay, I don't care if VC wants to pay 100 million, 30 million, maximum, my note will convert as if company was valued at 8 million or 6 million. So you negotiate only these two things. So the negotiation on the convertible note is like 20 minutes long. It's not a long-winded conversation. You're not deciding the valuation, voting rights, information rights, anti-dilution, liquidation preferences. You don't have to do any. You talk about these two numbers, 20%, 5 million cap, done. So this could be a quick way to raise money without all the complications. All the way in the back, a question.
Yeah, so we had a question on the valuation cap as well. Like somebody said, 5 seems to be too high, you should be around 2.5. So how do you, the whole point of doing a convertible note was to postpone the discussion about valuation, right?
Yeah, it's not
and they're now negotiating about the
cap.
Yeah.
Yeah. So people, investors want to negotiate the cap because they want to get a bigger percent of the company. And just like anything else, you have to hold a line. At the end of the day, it's not going to matter that much. My point is, suppose the 2.5 is pretty low, but let's say 4 million cap is on the low side. High side will be 8 million. That's the kind of typical range. So suppose you give them a cap of 4 million. So they'll get extra 10,000 shares out of 100,000. At the end of the day, they'll own 4.26% of the company rather than 4.11% of the company. BFD. So, talk about it for 20 minutes. If the guy doesn't see the point, maybe he's the wrong guy. If you're desperate enough, you say, yeah, whatever. So don't let that ruin your day. It's not that significant.
And you can have different
Caps. You can have different notes with different things, but usually it's not good hygiene. Yeah. You want to have really kind of one flavor. Now, if one note was 3-4 months away from the other note, you can slightly different terminal. But in general, try to not create a unique situation every note, because it looks like you look like amateur, your lawyer will be unhappy, your VC will be suspicious. So by the way, there's a new option called SAFE. SAFE. Monishi, are we supposed to take a break? We're doing good? We're going half an hour?
We'll continue till we finish, then they can
okay.
They will mob you off.
Okay, so finish time is 9 o'clock, no?
Whatever. We could have finished at 8:30 and...
Is it 8:30 or 9?
It's 8:30 now.
Yeah, I know, but...
Go ahead, don't worry about it.
Well, I know that's your opinion. Let's take the group's opinion. 9:30. No, 9 will be the maximum. But the question is, or somebody needs to stop now, or we can go till 9? Okay, all right, okay. So the SAFE, which stands for Simple Agreement for Future Equity, is a new invention. Actually, if you go to ycombinator.com website, they have SAFE paperwork there. You can download. What's the difference? Well, loan, convertible note is a loan. By the way, I didn't mention, there's a third thing you have to negotiate, interest rate, because it's a loan. So it's supposed to accumulate like 5%, 6% annual interest. Not a lot, but it is. And loan technically are a highly regulated thing in the US. They have to be paid back. So invented this instrument. It's not a loan, doesn't have to be paid back. So it's more preferential to entrepreneur. If I'm the investor, I prefer a convertible note. But If company is hot, they're only issuing SAFE, I'll take a SAFE. You can even have a combination of some SAFE and some convertible note if you're clever. But my point here is that you can raise money quickly using SAFE or a convertible note without the complicated process of raising money from a VC, just to get going. Don't wait and don't get bogged down. Okay, I'm switching topic. Who the hell are these VCs and what do they want? For next 5 minutes, we'll talk about that. So, yeah, go ahead, gentleman in the black jacket.
Preference, like at least in the Silicon Valley, for investors to say, okay, SAFE is fine, I don't need a convertible note?
Yes, SAFE was fine for a long time, but as of like few months ago, people are pushing back on SAFE. They said, no, we gotta have a convertible note. But it's still quite common. I just did SAFE a month ago. So it's not gone out of favor, but more people, because from an investor point of view, convertible note gives them more leverage. Gives them interest, they can recall the loan. From entrepreneurs, you don't want to pay the loan ever back again. I am in the board of a company when one investor recalled his $300,000 convertible loan, and it was very painful. We just finished raising $500,000, and he recalled his $300,000 back because convertible loan was for like 1 year, and 1 year was over. We still had not closed the VC round, so that's why I really like SAFE if I can get away with it. यार मनीषी यार एक चाय तो ला दे यार काली चाय ना शुगर ना कुछ नहीं बस काली हाँ काली as a makrani. Okay, let's talk about venture capital. So these are basically people in the financial world whose job is to find companies, put some seed, put some fertilizer, sow some sunshine, so they grow up to be plants, hopefully strong plants, and then they have to cut the tree and sell the lumber. This is the whole business model. If they cannot cut and sell the lumber, they will not invest in the seed. They're not here to build lasting companies. Well, when I say cut the tree, sell the lumber, IPO is like that. Because they have to pay back their LPs. They have 10 years to do all that. So that's why they look for traction. They need to see traction. Now, higher up you are on the traction ladder, more fundable you are. Which means best traction is you have actual sales coming in. If you don't have that, you have pilots going on. If you don't have pilots going on, you have people saying good things about you. If you don't even have people saying good things about you, at least you need to have a name of people who you're planning to talk to. If you don't even have that, you have no traction, do not approach a VC. So you need to have some traction. And how do they fund you? They give you dollars, you give them shares. Very simple. Except they get preferred shares, like we talked about. Preferred shares has a bunch of extra privileges, which we'll get into next session. How do you value the company? We talked about this. See if you guys got good at math. Now, this side already is good at math. We are looking for this side. Valuation is 3 million. VC puts in 2 million. What percent of the company does the VC own? 40%. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Very good. Very good. Excellent. You guys are indeed smart. I've asked this question, I don't know, maybe 40 times. You'll be surprised. I've gotten the correct answer maybe 5 times out of 40, which is quite puzzling. But of course, there's no shortage of. Maybe you have to transfer. So this is called pre-money valuation. Pre-money, they put 2 million in. Now the post-money is 5 million. We already did all this on the whiteboard, so this is kind of a repeat. Microphone. Sorry. I speak so loudly, I forget. So again, of course, this is the trick question. So you want to avoid answering question like, what valuation would you like? Because no matter what you say, they're never going to go above that number. So you're starting the negotiation wrong. If you want to say high number, then they'll say this guy's too unrealistic. I don't have time to convince him. Let's just pass. So it doesn't serve you to give an initial number. Your job should be, sir, I'm really good at building companies. I don't know how to value them. That's your job. Because whatever you say, you're going to show your disappointment. No matter what they say. Like, are you serious? So just let them come up with a number. Okay. So I mentioned already on the whiteboard, their money comes from limited partners over a 10-year period. They keep 2% of the fund size, the management fee, 20% carry. So that's basically how they make money. So the problem is this. The point I'm going to make is, see, you started a company. If you can get an offer for $10 million, you own probably at that stage 50, 60, 40% of the company, depending on how many co-founders he had. You know, that you can make $4 million or $8 million if it's 20 million, you're pretty happy. When you take VC money, they won't let you have a small exit because their numbers don't make sense. They put all the due diligence. They were hoping to make 200 million or 100 million. And you want to sell the company for 30 million, 20 million? It's great for you, not great for them. And guess what? They will have the controlling interest. They have veto rights. They won't let you sell. So once you take their money, you pretty much have to now have a bigger exit. So it's worth their while. Don't even take me to my last company, my VC. We had an early offer from Oracle, and our VC was misbehaving already. So we wanted to take the offer. He wouldn't let us stay. He said, I'm not going to make enough money. Guess how we got out of that miserable situation? The 3 founders had to sell 32% of our founder stock to him. So son of a bitch can make enough money just to get out of jail. Very, very unfortunate. My heart sinks when I think about it. But that can happen. So point is, when you take their money, you have to make sure that you're willing to work long and hard to make it a big exit, so it's worth your while and their while. So think about that. There was a question in the back, if you notice, if the microphone can travel to the last row.
So the question I have is, when we take seed funding versus Series A, is there a difference in expectations of VCs?
I didn't understand.
Like if you go for seed funding, let's say of 1 million or something like that, versus Series A of 4 million, would the expectations be any different?
Well, because 1 million most likely is coming from angel investor, not from VCs. So angel investors are much more flexible. They will be fine with getting 2 million for the 1 million investment, 2x, 3x, whatever. So when you take VC money, then the expectation gets set up for much higher because they do all the computation. They have hallucination of you doing a $200, $300 million exit. So they kind of want to push you in that direction.
And that usually means multiple rounds of financing.
Sometimes, no, there could be early exit. I mean, you can get a decent early exit. Best way to do that is get into a 2-horse race. So like when Waze, a 75% Israeli company, was being sold, suddenly Apple and Google got into a bidding war. How much would you pay for a 75-people company who makes maps and driving instruction? 100 million? 200 million? 1 million. That's what happened because of 2-horse race. So then you can still have it, and they didn't take too many rounds of funding. So WhatsApp was the same thing. So point is to get into a multi-bidding war if you're hot. So point I'm making is that if you take VC money, you may have to work longer and harder. As a good entrepreneur, that should not scare you, but I'm just warning you. Okay, the point here was I already made that these people see a lot of business plan. Only each partner at a VC firm may get 100 business plans his way, only may talk, listen, get pitches from 100 of them, do serious diligence on 20 of them, make maybe 3 offers hoping to invest in 1 or 2 companies. So odds are very, very tough. That's why you have to be super prepared, super sharp before you show up. That's why you don't just talk friend just because you know some VC. You need to be prepared. You have one shot, maybe, seriously speaking. So that's why you have to be very prepared. So how do you do that? You research the VC, you look for them. Who are they? What are they investing in? Get introduced. Send them an executive summary to gauge their interest. Many of them want to get the slide deck. Sometimes you cannot avoid it. I try to send them a mini slide deck just to see, because they get so many badly written plans. They want to see, is this guy worth talking to? Your whole point is you're getting your first meeting, your point of executive summary is to get a face-to-face meeting. That's when you're going to wow them with your personality, your vision. Point of the first face-to-face meeting is what? By the way, this process is just like dating. If you think about that, it's the same process you follow for dating. You got to think about who she is, get introduced. You don't jump up in front of her, so like, hey, I'm Sanjay. And like, who the hell are you? So you have to do some proper introduction. You need to gauge some interest. You're trying to get a first date. And purpose of first date is what? To get a second date. That's the only purpose of first date. First date has no other purpose. Same thing here. You want to not tell them the whole story. You want to intrigue them enough that they want to give you a second story, a second meeting, and a third meeting. So you build comfort over time till there's some compelling event to bring it to a close. So just like dating, if you can feel like, what do I do now? Well, if you were dating, what would you do now? Do the same thing. It always works. I've never seen this analogy not be applicable. You'll be surprised. So this is the process of raising money. You do your homework, that takes you a few months. It's not over a weekend. You got to talk to 50 to 100 people, partners, users. Then you put together a pitch. You pitch to one, then they want you to go pitch somebody else they like. It's not uncommon to present to 25 to 50 VCs before a couple of them will show interest. So don't be, after you talk to 7 VCs and nobody shown interest, like, yeah, this is not going to work. No, you haven't even done enough work. I've known people who've gone as much as 85 presentations before they got interest. But that's on the high end. Typically 25 to 40 works. And this takes months. It doesn't happen in 1 or 2 weekends. Then if you're lucky, then they will send somebody to do diligence on you. They'll spend a couple of days with you, go over everything you have done, check do you really own the IP? Is the patents filed correctly? Are the team members really showing up to work? Once they've done that, if you're lucky, you will get a term sheet. Term sheet is a 4 to 8 page Word document which spells out all the conditions under which they're willing to invest. If you get the term sheet, then starts the term sheet negotiation. That takes, say, a few days. Then once you sign the term sheet, now starts the legal diligence. They won't spend time on legal, because now their lawyer gets involved. Now they're trying to make sure is the company properly formed. Have you transferred all the intellectual property right properly to the company? Was there any dhogabazi, halla gula, some other badmashi? That's all that will be discovered. And about 10-20% of the deals fall through in legal diligence. So all that is kosher, then the money will be transferred to your bank account. So this process takes a long time. It's not quick, and you have to be resilient to be able to do this, because this takes about 60 to 80% of your energy for some time. That's why you don't want to raise money every 6 months. You want to raise money every 2 years. In this process, what is the moment of joy? What do you think when you're the happiest? Closing? Closing, you're too exhausted. You just want to be quiet, have your own scotch alone. By that time, no. It's when the email arrives with the term sheet attached and before you open the email. It's a brief moment of joy. I've raised the money a few times, so I've learned to enjoy it. I take a walk around the block, call my wife, enjoy savor that moment. Doesn't last. You open it like, what? They want me to invest. You're pissed off. You immediately call your lawyer. He tries to calm you down. It's pretty bad.
Quick question.
Yeah.
One, if you go back to the previous. Thanks. So we talked about putting together a founding team and then the concept of diligence. So let's say one has not worked with several founding team members before. Is part of diligence also checking in reference checks, talking to their bosses? And where I'm going with that is, should that be part of the founding team formation process where you bring in a founder, you actually do that check yourself as opposed to get surprised on the back end?
Yes.
Okay, and the second question is, I think about investor strategy. How would you think about a lead investor versus others as opposed to just a shotgun approach?
There's no shotgun approach. You try to talk to as many people as you can. When a person gets interested, they are going to then sort of say, okay, we're trying to move forward. Then they will want to bring in the people they want to work with. They form something called a syndicate. So they're not going to pick from, you have been approached 10 people and 3 people are interested, chalo ab milke karte hain. It's not like that. Milke karna nahi hota. So they will then tell you who are they going to work with you. You have to go pitch to them now. But now the VC is already introducing them, so it's much quicker. But you have to convince them too. I'm right now in that process. I found a lead VC. He's telling me, go talk to this guy and this guy. Actually now, once they decide to invest, a shift happens. Instead of they grilling you, they now come to your side of the table. Now he's helping me. My next meeting, there's a meeting today. They're telling me, change this slide, say this, don't say that. Make sure you bring up this point. Because now they're helping you, they're together going with you. So very nice.
So follow up on that real quick. Did you have a point of view on which investors might be your lead VC and each them?
Every investor you approach, you ask them, do you lead or do you follow? And almost all investors will tell you they lead. If some of them say we follow, usually strategic investor follow, which is companies. And there's some small VCs who say we follow, and then you just keep them in back pocket. But almost most VCs we'll talk to, they want to lead. There are, of course, exceptions all the time. But yeah, then you approach everybody as if they were lead. That's the short answer. Yeah.
All this process is kind of involved,
Yeah.
steps. But most of our guys, the entrepreneurs, do not know all of the processes, the documents, and all that, the legalities. Is it a good point to be involved with a lawyer as a startup? And I'm sure there are lawyers that basically understand that early stage entrepreneurs don't have much funds. Are they willing to work? And I read somewhere that a good law firm, you ask the law firm how they're connected with the VCs, etc., and they become then the lead VC point of contact and prepare you for those kind of things. Is this a good idea?
No, not a good idea. Because if you need so much preparation that a lawyer has to prepare you, then VC is going to find you weak and probably not fundable because you're not ready yet. The A players are the birds from the nest who can fly on their own wings. And this thing looks complicated, but it's not complicated. Remember how scared you were before you had your first baby? Yeah, no idea how to grow up. Baby ko kya karte hain? It's like everything looks like mysteriously complex. Well, just go along with me, would you? You were a baby once, weren't you? Let's stick with that one. Point is that it looks complicated, it's not. And there's enough people who tell you, ye karna hai, wo karna hai, and you'll do just fine. And yes, you'll use the lawyer, but once you find out how much lawyer is charged, you yourself will not be doing what you just said. So you ask your other friends, you read some book, you check some blogs, you find an advisor. So this is how you put together yourself a support group.
The point was actually that could be a facet of this workshop, how to prepare for that kind of.
What do you think I've been doing for the last hour?
But you aren't giving the documents, the documents. The whole document, you need the cap table, all those kind of things. A guy is not going to give you money just like that. You just said in the last phase, hold on. In the last phase, after the term sheet has been agreed, the due diligence goes on. And those are not easy people to deal with. They want all the documents in place. Who's going to do it? I mean, not these engineers. They've never written.
You're worrying about the wrong thing.
Why should I not?
Because just like having a baby, there'll be enough doctors and nurses and friends. They'll just tell you when time comes. So you don't need to master them. My point is when VC becomes interested, now she's chasing you because they see a way to make a lot of money. They will tell you, let's do this, we'll produce this. Right now, the VC was in my office telling me, how can I help you? What things do you need? Do you need a financial model? Let me review your slides. They will start working for you at that time because they want you if you're really compelling. So don't worry about it. This is nothing to worry about. There'll be some lawyer, there'll be some VC, there'll be some friend, there'll be an advisor. Everybody will tell you what to do. Figure out what is the big, hairy, audacious problem you're trying to solve and put together a team to solve it. Everything else will be easier than that. So it looks like it'll be complicated. It's not. I had no training on this thing whatsoever. I'm a hardcore electrical engineer. I figured it out. It's common sense. I've been teaching 7 years MBA. I don't have an MBA. You don't need it. It's all in your head. So elevator pitch, just talking about reaching investor. See, if you're using too many words to express your thoughts, guess what? You don't have clarity of mind. One of the most important things you're judged on is how much clarity of mind do you have. So this is a way to write down what you're going to say and see what can you cross out. How can you say it in a way which is more compelling? So you have to be, we went over that earlier, I'm just reminding you towards the end, that you have to be, your homework for all of you for next session is this. All of you should give me a one-page handout. I want you to write down what problem are you solving and who has this problem. Got it? If you're serious about it, take a shot at it. Handwritten or whatever, one-pager. Well, actually, it's half a page. It's like 3 lines, not even a one full page. 3 lines. If you have too many words, I'm not going to read it, which means you have no clarity of mind. So this is like less than half a page. So let's talk about the investor pitch. We're finally getting to the core topic. Good news, we have 10 minutes, plenty of time. So I'll talk about slide 0 in a second. First thing is, who are you and should I care? So this is time to show off your fancy degrees and your pedigree. Then talk about what was the unmet need and how did you see it, how you came across it. Tell a story. Then talk about what are the alternatives your customers have. That's your competitive landscape. Then you're going to talk about your solution and your unfair advantage. Why us? Why now? If anybody, these 2 people can do it, anybody can do it, why you guys? What did you do special? By the way, don't take pictures because there are 10 things, so you can take the picture and go to number 10. Writing is small, I know. Then you're going to talk about market size. How many people, if you can get to everybody who needs it, how many people and how many dollars are we talking about? Then you talk about your go-to-market strategy, which means what pricing, how will you sell it, online, direct sales, that's called channel strategy. Partnerships, who will you partner with? Who will be delighted that you exist? They want to take you to their stakeholders. That's your part. So we can get deeper into each one of these things at some other time. How will you make money? That's called business model. Then number 8, what progress have you made so far? Look back about 6 months. What are the major milestones over the next 18 months? This all could fit in a single slide. Then you're going to talk about your financial projection and assumption and have some narrative. How did you validate them? How did you come up with those numbers? And finally, your ask. What are you asking? How are you going to use the funding? How far will it take you? These are the 10 topics in your VC or investor pitch. These are the 10 paragraphs in your executive summary. These are the 10 chapters in your business plan, which nobody writes anymore. But these are the 10 ways to explain your business to anybody who cares. So it's not magic, it's not complicated. We use fancy big words, but I've given you the translation in the parentheses. So this is it. You can explain these things in 10, 12, 15, 20 slides. You're done. But slides have to be full of data. Your words coming out of your mouth have to be actual anecdotes of people you talk to. That's how you know you didn't make this up sitting on your couch. You actually went out, talked to people. You have a deep understanding of customer needs. That's what you're going to trying to demonstrate.
What was slide 0?
Over slide 0. So slide 0 is the most important slide, or of the 2 of the most important slides in your presentation. There are only 2 slides when all of their blackberries are down. They're actually listening to you, but they have all ADHD. The 2 presentation is slide 0 and the slide number 9. That's when they really pay attention. That's what they really understand. And they can see things you haven't even thought of. And by the way, slide number 9 is not a cute chart like this. Don't ever show me your financial projection like this. Every company looks exactly the same. It's like showing me pictures of newly born babies. Stop, they all look the same. Show an actual spreadsheet when you have lots of numbers. And someone says, like, the whole spreadsheet? Yeah, the spreadsheet. Because that's where the eyes can see, they can see holes and figure out a bunch of things. Slide 0 is the very first slide, which is nothing on it but your name and the company name and a tagline. They have to open the right compartment of the brain where your words will go in. If they don't know which compartment of the brain they go, they're fighting with themselves. Yeah, kya sali ka company hai yaar? Looks like a software company. Nahi, I think they have a hardware too. Nahi, lagta hai this is services company. You're on slide 6. They haven't heard a word. So you have to stop. You have to start. We are a software company. We are solving the problem of early blindness detection. We already have 17 hospitals using it, and 200 people have been cured by this. We are here to raise $7 million so we can launch in 17 cities and get to 100 hospitals. Okay, I got it. Now tell me more about it. And some of you think, like, wait a minute, you even told him how much money you were raising. You told him everything. Yeah, what is that, a surprise birthday party? Of course. Tell me everything, then make it justify those things afterwards. So yeah, tell them those things. That's slide 0. Because when you're going through all this blah, 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 what is the VC listening? It's listening for 3 things, only 3 things. Is there money to be made? Are these the goofballs who are gonna make me the money? And how much money will I make? So in his mind, everything translates to those 3 things. So you just know that, give it to him. And that's simple, it's not complicated. You can make it complicated, it's not complicated. It's all about making money. All right, so now that we have wasted all this time, we might as well, okay, well before that. So this is sort of your summary slide. When to raise money, from whom to raise, and how much. Because based on the amount, based on the timing, based on where you are, you have different source and different calibration of money. So, some people are taking picture, I'm just killing time, just whatever. So executive summary, exactly the same thing which you saw me before, same 10 items, and I just separated magic solution, made it 2 different things. But it's really the same 10 topics. We just did that. So, finally, with 5 minutes to spare, we are at the topic we came here. But see, it's going to go easy now because we already have covered all the reasons. So this is your slide 0. There's nothing there to distract you but a tagline. What does the company do? And you're not going to jump over this slide. I forbid you to do it jumping over quickly. Take your time. Open the right compartment of the brain. Explain the story. Tell your emotional why you did it. Once you have done that, you gotten their attention, now you talk about your team, who you are. It's okay to have not a perfect team. You can say, we don't have a VP of sales. That's one of the things we need to hire probably in month 9. But one of the first things we're going to bring is a product manager. But we are engineers, we understand this thing, we are deep. Okay, at least you know that what's missing, that's good to know. Then you show up with the unmet need. How did you validate the unmet need? How many people you talk to? So show some statistics, show some names, show some logos. How many interviews you conducted? Make them believe that you really, really know. Then you show which segment of the market you're going after. Yeah, everybody can use it, but we're going to start here. This is the people which have shown the most vulnerability and desire to adopt. So these are all the golf courses, this is all the resort courses, but we're starting with the private courses on resort. That's our most juicy market for whatever new product we have. Then what are the market dynamics? What hole did you discover? What kind of competition it has? So always there's a competition. Your point is to indicate where you can enter, because there's always what I call underbelly of the beast. No matter how strong the janwar, there's always an underbelly of the beast. That's where you attack, because the big janwar cannot quickly move. So you need to show that you identified the underbelly of the beast and the weak point. And now you come to your solution. What is your solution? What does it look like? Is it a device? Is it a machine? Show a screenshot. Show some drawings. Make their imagination come alive. Could be a demo, but most demos are not as good as it's like most movies are not good as the book. Most demos are not as compelling as they should be. But whatever. Then show what your unfair advantage, why you can do it, what's unique about you guys. Gotta be something dramatic. We are 10x cheaper, or we are integrated fully into SAP, okay? Whatever the thing is, something. My uncle works in the agriculture department, that's why we have unique knowledge. Okay, that's an unfair advantage. No, not even a joke, no, serious, this is good. Having some unique connection like that is your unfair advantage. This is not even funny. Positioning, how are you different than others? Remember, you want to be up here. You can choose axes, whatever will make you look to the top right corner. If I had more time, I'll give you some examples. Ask me next time. I can give you many examples. So you can change the axis so you look the best. If you were Toyota, you're going to choose most affordable, high resale value. If you're Ferrari, you're going to choose cool image and performance. So you can pick the axis which is going to make your car look better. So we can do more exercise. Then figure out your business model. Who pays you? How much gross margin will you make per transaction? What's your cost, customer acquisition cost? All those kind of details go in here. Then you talk about your go-to-market strategy. Which segment are you going after? How are you going to get your first 10 customers? What partnerships are you planning to have? What is your marketing and awareness plan? Well, we're going to have an ambassador at each campus. Or we're going to go through partnership with Red Cross. And then we have talked to Red Cross director, they have already agreed. Whatever it is, this is the time to mention those. Then what's your financial projection? You're going to show the spreadsheet. You're not going to show just a chart like this. You're going to show your metrics, assumption. And this is, we're going to have a lot of questions. And your ask, what are you asking? 2 million, 6 million, 8 million. So whatever your ask is. And then finally your timeline, what have you done so far? What are you planning to do in the next 18 months? And just like we gave you the outline, this is exactly that structure. It could be a nice picture like this. This is one picture. You can pick how much money you need now in the future. What are your major milestones? How many employees you're going to have? Everything fits in. Of course, I'm calling it the Z timeline for Zafar, but it's not catching on. So point is, it's not complicated. I just showed you basically the structure of what you need, what your presentation looks like. So just follow the same outline I gave, and surprisingly, we're only 1 minute over time. So we did the presentation quickly, but the reason it went quickly because we've given you all the structure before that. So we led up to it. So it was not like, what the hell are they talking about? You heard about all those things. So we can review it again. What are your, as your homework, write down some questions which are confusing and needs more explanation. You can even email them to me at nzafar@gmail.com, or just give them to me in real time next time, and I can go through them. So not a big deal. You've been very patient audience. We'll figure out a way to get you the slide. I'll send you. Should I send them to Manishi? Yeah. Okay, I'll send them to you, and then just don't send them to everybody because that's my IP. But you guys are all seem to be good people. Yeah, chelas. So chelas should be getting. And look at the books if you want any books. They're the skinny ones are $15. The fat ones are $20. So let me know. We can take Venmo, cash, credit card, whatever. If not today, I can bring them next time. But great to have you all, and I'll see you in 2 weeks.
Okay, guys, let's give a big hand to Naeem. Okay, and now it's time for you to, meet up with each other, mob Naeem, whatever you want to do. Okay, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. By the way, those of you who have other partners in your firm, in your company, if they are non-IITians, you can certainly call them here. As long as you are involved. I mean, in other words, a company, any startup must have at least one IIT co-founder. So even if the non-IITian person comes, it's okay. As long as in their company, there's some IITian guy out there. That's it. Okay, thank you.